As I've said before in presentations, this is never tested until times are really tough. And we've been real impressed with some of the folks that we're dealing with, how they're stepping up and what I say is doing the right thing. The next area is, can you repay the debt? That's the capacity, and that is coming from cash flow. And the next area is collateral. And this is the secondary source of repayment. And this is your little parachute. It's obvious when things tank, if they do, and these are the loan deals, that what can you rely on this collateral? And a lot of times, that's going to be tough. You know, unless you're in a first lien position, you may or may not have. We're working on a project yesterday, another one that has, having some tough times, and we're in a good collateral position, so we're really getting the attention. Now, we got a request today. We're working on a project, and you'll find this interesting. It's a real estate deal, but we're in a second position, which is not atypical. We're normally, a lot of times, on big projects in a second lien position. The bank's attorney contacted us, and you know what the bank asked us? They're going to foreclosure. Would the state of Georgia like to take out our first mortgage? Well, we have 100 and something thousand invested. They have 400,000 invested. The building may be worth 600. I haven't asked Joni and Brian and them, but I don't think we do want to take out. But they're asking that question. They're hopeful that we'll come in and take out. But so we look at the value of the underlying collateral. We look at the amount of the lien in front of us and then our position. But truthfully, a lot of times in the collateral, we're in a very vulnerable position. We're taking, collateral. Now, we had a community that released some of our collateral, and I explained to them why it's important for us to have a lien. They released our collateral on a project, and don't worry, I'm not going to name names. But they released the collateral, which is something you shouldn't do. There's a reason why we have collateral. They released it trying to structure a deal, and the deal they tried to structure did not work out. Well, even if we're in a second position, we still have a lien on that asset. So we have another project, and you're thinking, how many South projects do y'all have? Just a handful. I think I can count them on, hopefully right today, on maybe one hand, maybe 6 or 7 fingers. But we have another one, and talking to our attorney yesterday that we get advice from the Attorney General's office, just asking in general, we have a project that's going to foreclosure on the first Tuesday of the month, which in this case it'll be in May. The bank is in front of us, and it's a project that was taken over by the FDIC. The FDIC took over the bank that made the loan. They sold the loan to a bank out of Minnesota. So the Minnesota bank says enough is enough. We're just going to foreclose on the project, even though the company is only 2 payments behind. Well, their loan is $320,000. Our loan is $160,000. We are probably going to stand by and watch. The building is worth $700,000. Now, the person that owns the building is underwater, meaning they owe more than they're able. Well, actually, the building, they're underwater globally. They have other real estate holdings. This particular project, they don't have the luxury of time to market it to find a seller. They've been trying for several years. So what happens in this case, we have a lien. We still have a lien. Our lien is $160,000. The bank's lien is $320,000. It's going to go on the courthouse steps on May the 2nd. We know probably of 2 people that are going to be bidding on that. If it's bid higher than the bank's loan of $320 to cover, the bank's paid off first. The next will follow this project are tax liens, and their tax liens on this project in the tune of $14,000. So if the bank's loan's paid off, if the tax liens are paid off, we'll still get something. And you see, even though we're in a second position and somebody said, well, you're in a weak collateral, it's helping us right here because we have the likelihood that we're going to recover something at foreclosure because we're a lender. Suppose we didn't even take a lien because somebody said, what's the use? You're behind. We always take the lien. There's a chance we're going to recover some assets. Now, in this particular case, we have the borrower's attention because they have another property that we have a first lien on. So that one, we're in good shape here, and we may get something, good shape for a workout loan. And that's what this is called, a workout loan.
John,
Sure.
I just wanted to make a comment about this because I deal with this a lot. This is something that Heidi really stresses. So just for everybody, she really will ask you about this a lot, about collateralizing loans, and so does the governor. He asks her a lot. So I just want to make sure you guys are aware of it. It can only be fixed assets, and I know John's going to talk about all this, but you'll get companies a lot that want to know about, capital, and they want to know about, labor and all that, but Heidi always stresses this. So, and she said going forward, Kim's going to look at this a lot. So I just want to make sure you guys really keep this one in mind.
Yeah, thank you, Carol. We may go over it, that's okay. Because I was going to say something that, and this is getting into more details, but then this is the group that, that y'all are dealing with this stuff. We could have a situation of a company that we're taking this collateral fixed equipment, and we've had this question has come up. Well, what about the labor? Well, we don't finance working capital for the most part, so you can kind of get that in your mind. We do not finance working capital. I should say for the most part, definitely not with the incentive programs. We do through the One Georgia ESB program. We do through our Appalachian. For the most part, we do not finance working capital. We had a company we're working with, and we said these are our fixed assets, and we're taking collateral on these fixed assets. And then after we've closed it, after we've made the award, they want us to do working capital. They want us to do labor. Well, where we could do the labor is if those labor costs are capitalized. And by capitalized, it means it's part of that installation going into the equipment, and it is so much a part of it that the company is not going to expense it, meaning write it off in the current period. They're going to capitalize it over a period of time. That gets to be tough, but what Carol was saying and what Heidi is saying, we're looking at good fixed assets, as the collateral. Assets being like building, machinery, and equipment are your typical type of assets. Alrighty. Conditions, the trends of the industry that you're competing in, okay? And warning signs, I don't have time to go over this, but this is the little list that we put together of things that have jumped out at us when there could be a problem, with a project. And if you can take time and look over this little list, it's kind of interesting. Concentration of sales with one or two customers. The very first project I touched when I came out of my banking background, and I was at UGA for a brief time in an entrepreneurship program, PhD, and I left there, came on with the state. The very first project I did, it went belly up. But we recovered everything. But you know what the problema was there? This is the very first project in 1995 that I touched. But fortunately, there's been some successes since then. But the concentration of sales with one or two customers, they had, I could name their company, but I don't want to be, in case they're still around, sued or something. But they were not publicly traded. They had Walmart. I said, this is great. They had Walmart, took a little bit of chance. 40 to 50% of their sales were with Walmart. They were selling these slippers. And they were selling slippers to Walmart and all this stuff. And it was a company we dealt with up in North Georgia. And guess what happened? Walmart says we're changing suppliers. So they changed suppliers. The company tanked. This is even before I was with DCA. This is at GHFA. Fortunately, I was able to sell this loan. We were able to sell this loan. But that's important. The concentration of sales with one or two customers. Tax returns not filing, that's kind of a given, and so forth. More warning signs, I think. Oh yeah, these phone calls not being returned. You say, you laugh, but that's happened in our workout situation, my gosh. And we document, we said we tried calling this borrower down in South Georgia, I won't name the city, but X number of times we have it documented. Not responding to emails, not responding, calling, he's on the plant floor, calling later, he's out of the office and all of that stuff. That happens not too frequently. Alrighty. Now we're going to move into the next phase, and I think I've chewed up a lot of Ross's time, but he's going to get into the nitty-gritty of the preliminary risk analysis.